Welcome back. This is eNCA. Now, Higher Education Minister, that's Blade Nzimande, is visiting the University of Zululand. He will assess compliance with COVID-19 safety measures in student residences.
All right, let's take you to eNCA's Thuba Vilane, who joins us now for an update, and I understand he's joined by the minister himself. Thuba, the inspection there is really about the small cohort of students that has been allowed to return to residences, those who have no option but to return to residences. What is the minister finding as he's doing this inspection?
Yes, thank you so much, Thuba. We indeed, with the minister, Blade Nzimande, he just walked out from the hall where they had the presentation by the university, where they were briefing the minister about the measures that they have put in place in trying to curb the spread of COVID-19. As we understand that the varsity, like many other varsities across the country, they have started, in fact, on the 29th of June, welcoming students. Although it's a few number of students that have returned, but they are expecting that they will be joined by another student in the near future. But the difficult part of this university, as you'll understand, it's a rural university, so many students are unable to have the access on internet. As we understand that many universities now, they have been forced to use the online system for learning. But let me now speak to the minister himself. Thank you so much for your time, Minister. You just saw the presentation and you expressed your gratitude, in fact. What impressed you mostly?
Thank you very much. I must say that the university is putting a great effort in making sure that there is some teaching and learning that is taking place, whilst most of the students are not yet back at the university. And what impresses me most is that this is a rural university in essence. But they've been able, for instance, to physically deliver materials at 57 different delivery points in the province and in the rest of the country to be closer, to reach out to their students. The second thing that is also very important is that for those students who are able to connect online, they are able to monitor their system as to who is connecting, who is not connected, who is using the system, who is actually not using the system. Because that's very important that at the time when students return, the university has a clear idea of how much is the backlog and what percentage of students may actually require extra assistance and so on. But also at the same time, there are challenges in an institution like this, which I've taken as something we need to take up. The challenge of electricity and the challenge of reliable provision of water as well, which is something that hopefully with the president leading the district development model, really we just need to have an integrated approach between our department and other government departments and the provincial government and the local government to say, if you have a place like a university, we need to pull together all the resources, because normally in other parts of the world, universities, they actually give birth to cities. And I am actually convinced that if we are able to do that, we will be able to cover even the issue of bulk provision of services. Because if we don't do that, it's limited to the extent to which we can be able, for instance, to expand the university and to build more student accommodation. Because if you have unreliable water supply or electricity supply, it is a problem. But I'm very impressed that the university has factored this into its own plans in terms of moving forward, that these things will also have to be prioritized. So I'm really very impressed for a rural institution to be doing what it is doing and responding. The one other thing also I must mention is that they've ordered the laptops, and they are starting now also to be giving data out to students. And the laptops, they are expecting them before the end of this month or early next month, which is something also that is very important, and it will make a big, big difference to those students in particular who can be able to connect.
Minister, as you can remember, just before the country went on lockdown, this particular university had a shutdown by students where they were protesting about, among other things, the issue of their residents. They are saying it's not safe, they don't have network connection in those areas. I understand from here you're going to visit one of the residents and see how the university has done. So far from what you are hearing and what you have engaged with the varsity, measures have been put in place to ensure that residences are in a good condition for the return of students.
The issue of student accommodation is a priority for my department. And in fact, you may recall that the President in the State of the Nation address this year had committed 64 billion rands publicly raised funds, and also targeting another 64 billion rands from the private sector in order to deal over the next 10 years with the issue of student accommodation once and for all. That is why, as I'm saying, I take to heart what the university was saying about the provision of bulk services, because my own inclination is that priority for student accommodation must be focused on rural universities like this one, because they are very little, unlike in the cities, you know, you can get decent private accommodation. In rural areas, we are actually not able to do that. So the issue of student accommodation is a real priority. Of course, we are providing and assisting the institution to be able to provide more of student accommodation. That is why also another matter that is urgent that must be addressed in this institution is the question of the land, because the university doesn't own the land, and that presents constraints in terms of future plans for infrastructure expansion, because, as you know, government doesn't build on land that is not of its own. So we are working very closely with this university as well as with other universities, especially at this point in time, because COVID-19 has really exposed the extent of the inequalities in our country. And then it is an opportunity, you know, that we actually increase our focus in trying to deal with those institutional inequalities that we see in our country.
Thank you so much, Minister. That was Minister Nzimande. We understand, Thuba Vilane, that from here the Minister will be accompanied by the VC. They will be doing a walkabout, conducting a walkabout in some of the student accommodation to see the measures that the university has put in place to ensure that when the students return, they are returning in a safe environment.
All right, Thuba Vilane, thank you for that live for us there in Empangeni. It's good to see that the focus is shifting to some of these institutions that are not necessarily in the urban metropolitan areas. I did see some weeks ago complaints by students from the University of Fort Hare, which has a deep history in our country, in fact in the Southern African region, but those students were voicing concerns there. Those universities need to get focused. University of Limpopo, Thohoyandou campus, what's happening in those campuses, Vaal University of Technology, rather than focusing on the ones that are just, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, especially given that the Minister has made mention of the fact that they would be phasing in more students back into university, that academic year expected to extend until next year, March 2021. So we do need to know how the most rural universities are coping under these conditions.